Hi, everyone. Today I want to talk to you about an easy way in which we are able to assist our students with organizing their schoolwork, specifically referring to current assignments, upcoming assignments, exam dates, etc. This will give them an additional way of visualizing their calendar, and it will help them in terms of planning their time when they are studying, and they won't be caught off guard by assignment due dates that they had completely forgotten about. The feedback that I have received time and time again, either through 504 meetings or through general conversations with my students, is that right now they are feeling extremely overwhelmed in school. This problem has been compounded by the virtual setting in our current pandemic state. The majority of the students that I have are freshmen and sophomores, which means their organizational skills are not all that great, or, to put it bluntly, are fairly non existent. However, I do have an upper division class, and I have noticed that even my juniors and my seniors are struggling trying to manage their workload. The problems that they have stated is that teachers are not consistent in how we post our assignments. And when we use resources outside of Schoology, this only compounds the problem because they don't have a one-stop shop in terms of being able to manage all of their due dates. However, we do not want to give up those valuable resources that aren't part of Schoology. So, Schoology is fantastic, in my opinion, in terms of any assignments that are given within this platform. But as soon as we step outside of the Schoology walls, then students have to track those assignments independently. And they are not the best at doing so. So, what I want to show you today is how I use this simple trick to post all assignments within Schoology so that when students log in and they look at their upcoming, their to-do, their agenda, they can see exactly what is expected of them immediately and in the upcoming weeks. I try to be very deliberate in what I include, which means everything. I include all daily assignments that are given via Schoology, all daily assignments that are given outside of Schoology, all other assignments outside of Schoology, and I also post quiz dates and exam dates because, again, they need to see what is coming up in the future so that they can manage their study time now. So I'm going to show you a practice class that I've set up for the new semester. And I'll also show you a couple of things just so you can see how it looked in use last semester in my anatomy and physiology class. So hopefully these tips will help you. And if you have any questions at any time, do not hesitate to reach out to me and ask. So let's get started. The goal with this task is to enter all assignments regardless of where they're located within Schoology or outside of Schoology, so that everything shows up on the student's upcoming page. So here we're looking at my anatomy and physiology class, and I'm on the updates page. And if we were looking at a live semester and they had upcoming assignments, they would be able to see everything here on the right-hand side of their page. So when you click on the little calendar icon, that will show you everything that is scheduled for that class only. And if we back up to December, you can see the assignments and their due dates. So for example, I had a note set part 1 that was due on this Wednesday. I had 3 additional note assignments due on that Friday. Then here I have an assignment related to quizzes in a program referred to as Visible Body. This is a program that is an interactive website that enables students to do virtual dissections, and it enables them to study human anatomy in more of a laboratory setting, and it is a fantastic tool for them to use. But any assignment that I give through that website isn't going to show up in Schoology, but I've created an entry for it here. Then you see that there is an exam date for a regular chapter exam. And then I have an end of semester review for the final. And then I have the final exam date. So on the visible body, the exam assignment itself, the review for the final exam, and the actual final exam, none of these are actual assignments that they are completing anything and turning in for a grade. These entries are just there solely for the purpose of helping them plan out their time and know certain due dates, when the test is going to be, and to give them access to exam information so that they can prepare for those tests on their own time. So let's take a look and see how to create those entries. So the first thing that I'm going to do is let's go into a practice class that I have. And so this would show you the upcoming assignments, just to give you a better picture here. So we come back to class on Wednesday. Their first assignment is due Friday. Then they have some assignments due on Tuesday and Thursday of next week, followed up by the unit exam on January 18th. So to create these, you will go under materials. And just like any regular assignment, you will click Add Material and then Add Assignment. Okay. So you want to name it whatever it is that that assignment is called. So let's say that they are going to do another visible body quiz that is located on the website that they have interacted with. So I'm going to say visible body quiz. And let's say that this is for the muscular system. All right, so under the description, put in any information that you want in regards to that information. If you want to give them all of the instructions here, that's great. If you just want to point them to the other website so that they can get all of their information off of that website, then you could enter the link that they would need. And you can put as much information or as little information as you want, depending upon how your outside source is set up. For resources that are pretty light on information, I typically enter a lot of info here. But with the quizzes, they get a lot of instruction at that website. So I just want this to serve as a placeholder for the assignment so that they know that it needs to be done and that they need to go to this website. Then you choose the due date. So I want this one to be, let's say that this is going to be the next activity after the current unit. So I'm going to just pick the 27th. For most of my assignments, they have until 11:59 that day to turn it in. However, if it is for an exam, then I actually put the due date as the beginning of that class time. And I'll show you an example of that in just a moment. Category, you always want to list it as ungraded. And then you would choose the current grading period so that it displays in the correct time frame. And then you want to uncheck Sync with SIS. If you do not unclick that, it will create problems in regards to your grade book. It will create an assignment that thinks grades need to be entered in the Schoology gradebook, and it will sync with TAC. And if you want to avoid having to go back and delete those things manually, make sure to unclick that here. Now, since I'm pointing them to a website where they will submit their work at the website, I am going to unclick Submissions Enabled here. I don't want them turning in anything. This is just to point them in the right direction. And then I'm going to disable comments because if they have a question or if they have a comment, they need to communicate that to me directly. And I'm going to go ahead and publish this to students. If you were going to make this go live at a later date and you were just setting everything up, you would unclick that for now and then click publish on the date that you want it to post. But we'll just go ahead and say, let's make it active now. And then you will click create. So when we go to our updates page, it has been added to Wednesday, January 27th at 11:59 p.m. So let's take a look at how I post entries for quizzes or exams, basically an assessment that I am giving through Schoology. So I'm going to click on the main calendar and we're going to go back to December. So here I have all of my calendar showing for all of my classes. I have 8 different calendars selected. I have my practice class plus the 7 classes that I teach. And when we look here, so we've got finals week, and you can see that I entered a final exam entry for every single class. That way it would show up in the appropriate section, and the kids could easily see what day and what time their final for that class began. So we're going to take a look at the first one here. So this was for my Principles of Health Science. And it was second period, so they had it on the first Monday of finals week, and they took the exam beginning at 9:05 a.m. So I included all of the information that I wanted them to have for the final exam. And this could be the case for a regular exam as well. Whatever information you want to relate to them, put in as the assignment information. So down at the bottom, I also included a link so that they had a final exam review, so that if they were choosing to take the final exam, they could easily access the review by clicking on that, and it would open up a separate document that they could then work on to help them review for the exam. And I included this as a link instead of embedding it as an assignment or creating an assignment using Google Drive. And I'll explain why in just a moment. But note that I wanted them to have this information to work on, so I created it as a Google Doc. I made it so that they had to create a copy of it so that they could edit it on their own, but they are not submitting it to me because I did not take this up for a grade. This was strictly to help them prepare for the exam. All right, so how did I create this entry? When you, like I pointed out a moment ago, you would go to materials and then you would click add material and then add assignment. But I want to show you the settings that I chose for this one. So I'm just going to click on edit. So I gave it the name. I wanted them to know that this was the information for the final exam. So whatever naming convention you use, then follow through so that everything is consistent. Again, insert all of your information, and then at the end, I included a link to the outside document for the final exam review so that they could use that. And I did not create a Google Drive assignment because I do not want them submitting anything to me, okay? So the due date was the 14th, and I chose the specific time of the beginning of that class as the due date time. So I entered 9:05 a.m. This actually should be an ungraded category. Otherwise, it will create an entry in your grade book and you will have a blank entry with no grades. So if you don't want your grade book being clogged up with random things, make sure you choose ungraded for your category. Again, make sure the sync to SIS is unchecked, okay? And then I have disabled submissions and I have disabled comments right there. And I want it to be published to all students. And then I select save. So I have all of that information. And then when they look at their calendar, they see that entry on the due date, and it tells them that it's due at 9:05 a.m. Now, why do I put 9:05 a.m. versus 10:50 or 11:59 p.m. for other types of notifications? The reason that I do this is once I give all of my assessments, be they a quiz or an exam, in Schoology. So at the beginning of class, I open up the exam. I do not want them seeing multiple titles on the upcoming page over here on the right. I don't want them having multiple things that say exam to choose from. The assessment will show up with a little puzzle icon. And sometimes if they see exam, review, information or exam and then the name of the unit, they are like, which one do I choose? So by selecting 9:05, the beginning of class, as soon as 9:05 hits and then the clock clicks 9:06, then that assignment that I had entered for the exam will disappear because it is now past the due date. So it disappears. I make live the actual assessment that they're taking, and they only have one thing to click on, and it creates much less confusion. But by also designating it as 9:05, it's not showing up as any sort of overdue assignment. So if I want it to be completed or it's announcing a quiz or an exam, I always set the due date as that day and the time as the beginning of class, so that as soon as the clock clicks over the next minute, then that assignment will disappear from their upcoming. It still remains on their main calendar, so that they see it as showing up for that day, but it doesn't show as them needing to complete that assignment. And again, because you disabled submissions, you're not collecting anything for it, you don't have to worry about kids trying to turn things in. So that is a really easy way to enter information and have it show up and then disappear after the beginning of class so that it doesn't clog up their upcoming assignments and they know what they need to work on next. So just reviewing quickly, I use this for any sort of assignment that is given both inside and outside of Schoology. I click on Materials, go to Assignments, click Add Material, Add Assignment. I give it my name using whatever convention that you are using for your class. Enter any important information needed. If there's a website, include the link to that. Can't type. Still can't type. And then for your due date, you would select the date and then your time. If you want, you could put at the beginning of that class period, or you could leave it at the default 11:59. Again, for all quizzes and exams, I post the due date at the beginning of class so that it will disappear and kids aren't confused by having more than one thing saying exam or quiz pop up in Schoology. Categories should always be ungraded. You want to make sure you pick the appropriate marking period. By default, it should be the correct one. Unclick Sync to SIS. Disable submissions. Disable comments. If you have your students divided up into different groups, so I have my kids, Group A are all of my students with accommodations, and Group B is all of my students who do not have accommodations. So if I needed to post a separate review or a separate set of instructions for my kids with accommodations, then I could assign this to Group A. Otherwise, I would just leave it default and it will go to all students. But I love how you can sort your students into groups and then assign things accordingly. And then once you have everything entered, you would just click Create, and it will then show up on their calendar, and then they can easily track all assignments that they have been given, both for this class only by clicking the little calendar icon next to upcoming here on the right-hand side, or if they want to see all of their classes and all of the work that's been assigned from all of their teachers, they can click on the calendar icon at the top of the screen, and it will give them a wonderful overview so that they can plan out their study time. So I hope that this has been helpful. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and contact me at any time. My students have said that this has helped them quite a bit in terms of planning their study time. So I think the more of us that do something like this, the easier it will be on them in terms of managing their workload. Because again, like I stated at the beginning, this is something that they are struggling with and that they have commented time and time again on the feedback forms, the daily input forms that I have them fill out in class discussions when we've just taken time to talk about these things, and in 504 meetings when kids are giving feedback or parents are giving feedback. They are struggling. And if we can do anything to help them manage that and cut down on our work at the back end, from having fewer late assignments, having to explain things over and over again, they can quickly go on here, click on their entry for the day, and see what needed to be done. So hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.